Welcome to the Reinvent Your Life podcast, the show that talks about why we do what we do and how we can do it better.
Welcome to the Reinvent Your Life podcast. My name is Chaz Molesky, and today we have an awesome episode. And honestly, this couldn't come at a better time. Well, let me rephrase that. It could have came at a better time if I recorded this and put it out yesterday. At the time of recording this right now, it is July 2nd of 2020. And for this episode, I want us to focus on starting over. And I don't mean starting over completely, unless that's your goal. If you want to start over completely, cool. Absolutely go for it 100%. But what I'm saying is starting over from where you are right now to getting to where you want to be by next year. Look, we're halfway through the year, just over halfway through the year as of recording this right now. And man, has it been a year, right? I'm losing count at the moment of how many things have gone on this year and what really, we can just watch the world changing at the moment right now. And yes, it is very scary, some of the things coming through, and there's a lot of fear surrounding many people. But remember, in times of fear, there's also unbelievable amounts of opportunity. And that's what I want us to focus on today in today's episode is the opportunities that lie ahead of you if you just hit the restart button. And it's so much simpler than you think. So that's what we're going to talk about. Okay, so getting into this, I want you to think about the first half of this year. Okay, the first 6 months of this year, I want you to focus on really quick. How'd it go for you? Was it good? Was it bad? Was it kind of okay, just kind of there? Where was it? Really think about that. Like, where were you? And when you do this, I want you to do a little self-assessment, okay? The first thing that I want you to assess is, number one, what did I do well? And this is important because you have to give yourself some credit. And do not say that you did not do anything well. That's not true, and you know it's not true. So don't discount yourself like that. Even if you haven't had a lot of wins this year, you still did some things well. Did you wake up every single day? Yeah, well, you had to. Otherwise, you wouldn't be listening to this right now, right? Okay, well, guess what? You're great at waking up. Good job. Congratulations. Awesome. All right. It can be as simple as that, but what did you do well? Give yourself some credit. And I know that there's so much more than just waking up that most of you, if not all of you, have done. I know it, and I know it, and I know it because I've heard from clients, I've heard from people, I've heard from everybody that there have been some wins this year. So what were some wins for you? What did you do well? What happened that was good? That's the first assessment. Really think this out. If you're somewhere that you can start writing, if you got a pen and paper in front of you, go for it. What did you do well? And I want you to be honest. Did you start a business? Did you get a raise? Did you spend more time with your kids? Did you start a relationship? Did you end a bad relationship? What did you do well? Give yourself the credit. All right. Now, once we figure out what we did well, I want you to move on to the next piece. Okay. What can you improve upon? Because in all aspects of life, there's something you can improve. And if you cannot improve, then you need to find a way to do so because what does not grow dies. And whether that's physically, spiritually, emotionally, however you want to talk about death in that regard, what does not grow dies. So you have to be able to improve in some way, shape, or form. So what can you improve on that you didn't do in the first half of this year? What can you focus on moving forward? For those of you that only woke up, maybe you can improve on waking up a little bit earlier, right? Something as simple as that. Or maybe you can improve your mindset every day. Maybe you've been extremely negative. Maybe it's time to pull yourself out of that negativity and focus on some things that you really want to make you feel good. Some things that you want to notice out in the world that maybe you haven't been seeing. What do you want to improve upon? And write this down too. Write it right next to what you did well. Okay, what do you want to improve? Because this is going to give you some vision. And it's going to give you a little bit of a clue as to where you need to go moving forward, especially for the rest of this year, for the second half of this year. All right, what did you improve, or what can you improve upon? And then finally, what have you learned? Because everything in life is a learning lesson, whether positive, negative, or indifferent. There is a lesson in every single thing that has happened to us. But it's your job to derive the lesson from it. And if you don't learn the lesson, you're probably going to end up in the same exact situation over and over and over again until you learn the lesson that's in there for you. Okay, so what have you learned in the first half of this year? This could be, what have you learned about the world? What have you learned about yourself? What have you learned about opportunities? And please keep this positive. I know half of you just went way negative. All right, I know it. It's human nature. I get it. Okay, but don't. Stay positive, okay? Go into the positive here. This isn't positive thinking, but you absolutely learn some things that are going to help you, all right? So if you don't want to call it positive, think of things that are going to help. What have you learned that will help you, all right? Stick in that mindset. So figure out these 3 things. What did I do well? What can I improve upon? And what have I learned? And this is going to give you a roadmap moving forward. So now, to use that roadmap, you have to do something very important. You have to decide, where do you want to be by the end of this year and the beginning of next. This is huge. Where do you want to be? Because if you don't know where you want to be, you won't know where to go. And it's a very, very hard task to ask of yourself. If you don't know where to go, how can you expect to take a step forward? You don't even know what direction to head in. And that's when it gets really frustrating and you get overwhelmed because you don't know where you're going. So where do you want to be next year? Do you want to be more financially independent? Do you want to have more time with your family? Do you want to feel more like you're a personal success? Do you want to have more confidence? If you're battling depression right now, do you want to feel like you're more even keeled? Like when you wake up in the morning, you feel a little bit of energy, motivation, like you can get out and take on the world or even just accomplish getting through the day without being so brought down by things? Do you want to get a handle on your anxiety? Do you want to mend old relationships that maybe got broken through the first half of this year? What do you want to do? Where do you want to be? And define that. Really think about it. Where do you want to be? And write it down. And if you write it down, keep it in front of you somewhere all the time so you can see it. If you have an office, put it somewhere on your desk, on a mirror, somewhere in front of you, just so you can see it. If it's at home, put it on your sink in your bathroom. Every time you brush your teeth, and by the way, if you don't brush your teeth, that should be a goal for you. But every time you brush your teeth, it should be right there in front of you so you can see it. That can set the tone for the day, and that can be what you reflect on before you go to sleep. So it's always in your mind of where you want to be. So first step is define that. The first step is really that what did you do well and all that assessment. But next step, where do you want to be next year or by the end of this year? In this second half, where do you want to be? Now, this one's crucial. What do you have to let go of to get there? Because all of us, in order to change, in order to make progress, in order to do anything, we have to make some sacrifices. Sometimes these are massive, life-altering, insane sacrifices, but most of the time they're just quick shifts. They're just little things we have to let go of, things we have to stop doing, habits we need to drop. But what do you need to let go of to get there? Because you can't carry old baggage into new horizons. It doesn't work. And when you do that, you blur the line. And honestly, if you bring the stuff that brings you down into the future, you're only going to feel more of the same. So yeah, you might experience some success or you might find yourself living a better life or a better lifestyle. But if you're consistently plagued by the past or things you should have let go of, you're not going to get much fulfillment out of it, if any at all. So what do you need to let go of to get to that next step? And you know that there is something. And it's probably circulating in your mind right now, or maybe even in your subconscious, but just trust it. And if the first thing that came up is the thing that makes you the most uncomfortable, chances are that's the one. All right? So what do you have to let go of? That is huge. And finally, what is the risk? Because there's always risk in change. But what is the risk of not moving forward? What's the risk for your life for not going after what you want? What's the risk for not being 10, 15, 20 times further along, even one time further along than where you are? What's the risk? Because there is risk, and sometimes it's massive risk. If you're in a situation right now that leaves you consistently every single day unfulfilled, wishing for more, knowing that there's just more for your life destined to happen. And every day feels like a struggle and you feel like you're being punished. Well, I think you know what the risk is there if you stay. Now, what's the positive risk here? What is the risk that you could take, and really, what's the reward that comes with that risk? See, if the reward is stronger than the risk that you have to take, you will take the risk because that reward is motivating you to go in that direction. So the higher the risk, the greater the reward should be. Because if the reward, I can't even speak, if the reward is not worth the risk, you will not take the action. Let me repeat that. I'm going to say that one more time. If the reward is not worth the risk, you will not take the action. Now, don't build the risk up in your head to be something that it's not. Stay true here, okay? Don't create a story. Don't imagine that, oh my goodness, the risk, all this stuff is going to happen. If you have no reference points to say yes or no, 100% that something bad is going to happen, you cannot use that as a risk. Sure, there is potential, yes, but if you do not know, if you don't have enough information to say this will happen to me, then that's not the risk. Now, there is potential, sure, absolutely, no doubt, I'll give you that. But I want you to focus on the reward here. What is the reward that you're going to get for changing and moving forward and creating a different standard for yourself moving forward in life? By the end of this year, by the beginning of next, what is the reward? And is that reward greater than the risk of changing who you are or where you are right now? If it is, excellent. That's going to be your motivator. You'll be able to see that, you'll be able to believe it, and you'll be able to step into that future because that's the thing that's pulling you towards it. It's pulling you to get to that point. But if the risk is greater than that reward, guess what? It's going to push you away. It's going to push you away from stepping into that new future, into that destiny, because you don't want the pain associated to getting there. Because what good is a big reward if you're always in pain getting to it? And then when you finally get to the reward, if it took so much pain that you lost everything that you hold dear to you, well, it's not going to be worth it. So really figure this one out. What is the reward that I'm after? And is it worth the risk? And if it's not, you have to get a bigger reward. And really work on this. Spend some time. What is the reward that you want? What's it going to do for you? How is it going to improve your life? How is it going to change the elements that you go through every single day? How's it going to mitigate the overwhelm and the frustration and the stress and the unfulfillment? How's it going to do this for you? Really think this out and build this up so that it excites you. This should motivate you. This should feel so empowering when you do this exercise that you start to believe that it's possible. And once you start believing it's possible, boom, that's it. That's the key. That's when you start moving. And that's when you can start making progress. And that's when you can take the action to get to where you need to go. But before you take a single sliver of action, you need to go through these exercises that I just put you through, okay? So save this episode if you need to. Go back, listen to it, repeat it over as many times as you need to get the lessons here. But write this stuff down and create a map or a vision for your future so that you know where you're going. Do not just listen to this episode. It won't help you unless you actually use the knowledge that you learned. And that is the lesson of today. Start your new beginning right now. Take what you learned, apply it to your life, and reinvent your life. As always, thank you so much for tuning in. Please subscribe to the podcast if you have not yet already. Share it with those that you know need it most. And please leave me a review. I'm trying to reach as many people as I can, and I can't reach all of them without your help. So please help me out, and I would love to continue helping you out. And stay tuned because in the upcoming week, I have a very special guest, and we're going to have an amazing podcast episode for you. And I'm really looking forward to it. I've been looking forward to it for the past 2 weeks trying to set it up. So stay tuned. It's coming. And I will talk to you soon. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening to the Reinvent Your Life podcast. Now go out and apply what you just heard to start your reinvention. Please subscribe, rate, and share this podcast with those that need it most.